everybody, how you doing today? I am Eric Anderson. This is the Grid Gurus channel where we look at different ways of applying the grid, the 421 grid system to the drum set. And today, instead of looking at the drum set, I'm actually going to spend time with a practice pad, a pair of sticks, and my fashionable cowbell, actually two practice pads, because this video in particular is actually being put together for my current and my future students. And what we're going to do is we're going to break down this grid that's back here that popped up on the wall. We're going to actually go deep into the different techniques, hand techniques that are required to spend time getting better and better at playing this grid. And here's the purpose behind it. The three techniques that we're going to get into today are three of the four techniques that are foundational to everything else that you're going to play in the world of drums, regardless of what your area of expertise becomes. You can be, whether you're a drum set cat, or whether you're a drumline cat, or whether you're a concert or orchestral kind of musician, or if you just play as a street musician on buckets out on the corner, out on the street corner or something like that. It doesn't matter, because these three fundamental skills that we're going to dig into are a huge part. So this is what I'm going to do, right? What I'm going to do is this. First, I'm going to address those three skills that need to be mastered. I'm going to show you some exercises on how to improve those skills, and then I'm going to show you how these three skills get used in this particular grid that we're working on today. So the three skills that you need to learn are a good, well-executed tap, a good, well-executed downstroke, and a good, well-executed upstroke. So for those of you that are my students, we've gone through this before, and I want to review it again because I seriously want you to spend time on these three things. So a good tap is just what the name is a good tap stroke. The stick starts low to the head, you make one tap, and then it stops low to the head, right? And in essence, if you take a look at it, you can see that it's kind of parallel to the surface that I'm playing on each one of these practice pads. It's not kicking up high, it's just staying about parallel. It starts parallel and it stops parallel. And a great exercise for working and for improving just your taps is just 8 on a hand. Right, so here's my metronome, giving us a nice tempo, and I'm just going to do some 8 on a hand with my right hand on this practice pad, my left hand over here. 1, 2, 8, go. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Stop. Now the reason I'm using these two pads is because I want you to be able to hear what my left hand is going to do, what my right hand is going to do when we go through the grid, and what my left hand is going to do when we go through the grid, because you really need to be able to see and hear the independence issue that's going to be discussed here in a little bit. So now we've taken a look, after taking a look at the tap, the next thing that we need to take a look at is the downstroke. Now with the downstroke, there's some things that need to be addressed as far as the way that your hand must be positioned around the stick to make sure that you can have a well executed and effortless downstroke. So here's a few things that I want you to look at. Number one, if you take a look at how my thumb is resting on the stick and against this knuckle right here, this is actually a very big deal, because when your thumb is set like this, and you can see that my thumb is probably like about 45 degrees to the side of the stick, when the stick strikes the pad, the thumb being positioned here actually does a lot to help to prevent the stick from kicking up. The other aspect to take a look at as far as the position of your fingers and your thumb on the stick is these back three fingers right here. You notice that they are curled around the stick, but they're not holding and clutching the stick really hard. When you hold the stick like this, the sound that you get is, it's very tight. It kind of has a bitey sound to it. But when you loosen up your fingers and keep them wrapped around the stick, but not actually holding the stick, the sound that you get is much, it's a bigger, thicker, more complete and full sound. So with these issues in mind, proper thumb placement and just your fingers curled around the stick, but not necessarily clutching the stick, a good downstroke looks like this. So the downstroke starts, the beginning of the downstroke starts with the stick in a high position, or we'll just say, way up here. Now, to get really comfortable with the downstroke, what I'm going to ask you to do is not try to drive the stick in with a lot of speed. But in the beginning, what I'm going to ask you to do is literally just let the stick flop over, keep your fingers rightly positioned, and what you're going to see is right after the stick makes contact, you notice how my stick stops at this parallel position. And this is a big deal right here, and I'll explain why when we get into the upstroke. So again, if you watch this, right, I start high. After the note is played, the stick stops low. Again, you start high. Now I'm not driving it in. All that I'm literally doing is I'm lifting the stick up and I'm letting the stick in my hand fall forward and letting gravity do the work. At no point in time are these fingers actually clutching the stick at all or even driving the stick yet. The idea is just literally let the stick just kind of flop down, and you notice how it just stops low. So this is a well-executed downstroke. Now the reason you want a well-executed downstroke, especially in this particular grid that we're working on, is because the downstroke sets up the upstroke that's going to follow it. So a good upstroke, it looks like this. Again, you just completed a downstroke and your stick is stopped in this low position. So now what you're going to do is you're going to start from this low position. You're going to get a nice, quiet, so-called tap on the drum head or on the pad, and then right after you get that tap, then you're going to actually pull the stick back up to where it's way up like this. So what it's going to sound like is this. Notice how quiet it is. Now this is critical. The upstroke, I genuinely believe, actually gives people more problems with their accents than the downstroke. And the reason why is because, number one, people have a tendency to raise the stick up first and then come down and then have to raise it back up again. The other thing that they do, and this I believe is much more common, they'll play the upstroke as a tap, stop right there, and then realize that they have to play an accent, which means they'll whip it up and back real quick. But a well-executed upstroke, you get that nice quiet note and immediately get your stick up. Now your stick is in a nice, comfortable position where it's easy just to drop it in. So as you can see, every upstroke sets up the downstroke that follows it, and every downstroke sets up the upstroke that follows it. So when you get your stick up as quick as possible on the upstroke, up, it's really easy just to let the stick flop back into place. And even on the upstroke, I'm still maintaining the same hand position, which is the thumb is kissing the knuckle right here, and it's at about 45 degrees, and these back fingers are curled around the stick, but they are not clutching the stick super hard. Okay, so again, a good upstroke sets up a good downstroke. A good downstroke, which is just a flop at this point, sets up a good upstroke. So you just go up, down, up, down, up, flop, up, flop. And the reason why I'm saying flop is because I don't want you to think that you need to drive this stick down with a lot of speed at this point, because what I want you to do is just master and discover how little you need to do to get a nice big sound out of your drumstick with the least amount of effort. Because drums, to be honest with you, is all about being lazy. Lazy is just a really cool blue collar way of saying as efficient as possible. But I prefer lazy. All right? So we took a look at the taps, which is all your stick staying at a low, your stick staying at a low position. We took a look at the downstroke, which sets up the upstroke. Now here's why I'm digging into this, because this is where the independence issue comes into play as well. Because in each one of these in each one of these accent patterns that we play in this grid, each hand has to play the downstrokes and upstrokes while the other hand is playing nothing but taps. And that is an independence issue right there, because the one, like the hand that is playing the taps through each color cannot be distracted or persuaded or convinced to do something other than taps, while the other hand is doing downstrokes and upstrokes, or upstrokes followed by downstrokes. So here's an exercise that I would like you to do with each hand that will really help you get comfortable with the taps, and then the downstroke to upstroke I'm going to call it is called bucks, and then we're going to go back to taps, and then we're going to go to an upstroke followed by a downstroke exercise, which is inverted taps. So we're going to do all these in sets of 8 taps, and then we're going to do a measure of eighth notes as bucks, 8 taps, and then inverted bucks. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to do one round on my right hand and then a second round on my left hand. So let's take a look at this and see how it goes. So here's the metronome. I'm going to take it nice and slow. 1, 2, and taps, and go, and 1, and 2, and bucks, go, which is down, up, down, up, down, up, taps. 2, 3, invert, go, up, down, up, down, up, down, down to the left, taps. 1, 2, and taps, go, down, 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 taps. 1, 2, 3, invert, go, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and stop. Right? Now, I don't ask you to do that just one time. I ask you to do that over and over and over again, and really focus how on each hand plays its taps, and how each hand plays its downstrokes and its upstrokes, or the bucks and the inverted bucks. Because this right here, that one exercise fundamentally is exactly what each one of your hands is going to do when you run through this grid. Now here comes the challenging part. So here's the next exercise that I want you to work on that will help you get comfortable with the independence issue that's being worked on here as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to take each one of these colored rhythms, the blue, the green, the red, and the yellow, right? And we're going to play them nice and slow, and I'm going to put them on, my right stick is going to play on this pad, my left stick is going to be here. Because I want you to hear when each hand is playing the bucks or the inverted bucks, and when each hand is playing the taps. Because in each rhythm, from the blue to the green to the red to the yellow, that taps to bucks, each hand is going to switch the role that it's going to play, and you need to be able to do that. So first of all, I'm going to start with just the taps, and then I'm going to do a measure of the blue. So here comes a measure of taps. So 1, 2, taps at 16th notes. 1 E and a, 2 E and a. Blue rhythm, go. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down. is going to be the left hand playing bucks and the right hand playing taps. So the green rhythm is starting, right, 1, starting in taps, 3, green, go. 1, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, stop. Okay? So here we go with the red rhythm. So now the red rhythm is going to play the inverted bucks. So taps first, 1 and 2, 3, red, go. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and stop. And then finally yellow rhythm where the left hand is going to play the bucks and the right hand is going to play the taps. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, and yellow. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. All right. So now that you kind of see the mechanics and hopefully you can hear what each hand is doing and how each hand needs to play, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through each one of the colored patterns, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to play one measure of taps followed by one measure of the blue, and then taps to green, taps to red, taps to yellow. So here we go, and I'm just going to call out the colors. And what I'm going to ask you to do is pay close attention and watch this over and over again, but pay close attention to pick out either hand and watch when it's playing like the bucks exercise and watch when it's working on just its taps, and see if each hand does not get distracted by what the other hand is doing, because that, my friends, that's an independence issue right there. So here we go. So let's get the taps going. So 1, 2, blue, go. 1, 2, 3, taps. 1, 2, to green, go. Taps, 2, red, go. 1, and taps, and finally the yellow. Here we go. 1, E, 2, E, taps, 2, and we'll stop right there. All right, so that's the independence issue that this particular grid draws out. And actually every grid working on a practice pad really forces us to get comfortable with these independence issues, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this grid 3 times through. The first time is going to be at 50 beats a minute, second time is going to be at 75, and then finally the third time is going to be at 100, which was the original tempo that I played at. But unlike the beginning of this video, what's going to happen is I'm going to leave each hand on the right practice pad and left practice pad, and I will do the very best that I can to get my taps to be as quiet as possible, get my accents to be as loud as possible so you can really hear the distinction between the two. So at 50 beats a minute, we get this. So here come the taps first, and then I'll get it going. Blue, go. So So that was at 50 beats a minute right there. So hopefully you can kind of see and hear the independence issues that are being worked, as well as good taps, good downstrokes and good upstrokes. So now here we go, 75 beats a minute. Let's see what happens with this one. Taps. Here we go. All right, so that was 75 beats a minute. So now we're going to take it up to the original tempo of this. Well, the tempo that was used. I'm getting tongue-tied. Sorry about that, folks. The tempo that I played the opening round of the grid at, which is 100 beats a minute. So here we go. At 100, taps first. So 1, ready, go. All right, so there it is. There is a complete breakdown on this grid, right? The three strokes that we're looking at are a well-executed upstroke, a well-executed downstroke, and a well-executed tap. These are 3 of the 4 fundamental skills that every drummer, every guy, every girl that plays with sticks, you got to have these working, because if these are not working, it will immediately come out in your playing, because you'll sound like you're struggling. And the reason you'll sound like you're struggling is because you are struggling. So these three techniques, these 3 strokes, they are hugely critical to everything else you're going to do in the world of drums. And then along with that you're able to play the 3 strokes is good, but you also need to work on the independence, that one hand plays upstrokes and downstrokes while the other hand continues to play just taps. Because that skill in and of itself, that's the essence of where all the cool rhythms and the cool beats come from, like on the snare line, on the tenor line, and a lot of the music that's played in like concert band and orchestral music. And even don't think the drum set cats are being left out, because you're not, especially like in worship music, with the way that they're working a lot of rhythms around the entire drum set, more so on the toms than on the hi-hat and the ride cymbal. This ability to work independent and move, where one hand is playing an accent while the other hand is moving to another drum, that's just an expanded form of the same independence. So this one exercise will definitely set you up to execute a lot of music as you continue going forward with a lot less effort, which is what it's about. And then finally at the very end, we took you through the grid at 50, 75, and 100 beats a minute. Hopefully you were able to hear when each hand was playing its assigned taps, and when each hand was playing its either bucks or inverted bucks pattern, depending on which rhythm that you were in. So my friends, I'm asking you, I'm begging you, my students in particular, I'm begging you, please spend time with this video and get comfortable with the taps, the upstrokes, and the downstrokes. Then get yourself comfortable with executing the taps, upstrokes, and downstrokes while the other hand is playing like straight taps. And then finally, once you've ground your way through that, then you're really ready to blow this particular grid up. I stopped at 100 beats a minute, but that doesn't mean I want you to. I want you to push yourself at least to 120 beats a minute. And once you get yourself to 120 beats a minute on this and other ideas that are in the works, then guess what? We're going to start introducing new ideas or new grids to you, and we're going to slow this one down and start to stack more things on top of this particular accent pattern so that you can actually start to improve your chops and your playing all the much more. So my friends, that is it. This here session is done. Like I said, this one is definitely committed to my students. So I got to ask everybody out there that, just as a quick review, the goal was to break this thing down so that you can see the mechanics of how to play this particular grid. So straight up, did we reach that goal? Did we break it down in such a way that it helps you to understand the mechanics and the techniques that are needed to put this grid together? If the answer is yes, first and foremost, I want you to share this with as many people as possible. I believe this is a monster unlock that every drummer can benefit from if they'll just spend the time to dig into this and take each aspect and start to work on it. So please share it with them and give them that opportunity to get more gooder. Along with that, the thumbs up is always a good thing. Subscribes are always a good thing. I'd love to know about that. Love to see that happen. And I would love for you to know when the next video actually pops. But if we didn't break it down well enough for you, the mechanics, stick technique, hand technique, all that kind of stuff, please let us know down below what did we get wrong here. Because my friends, I would be more than happy to circle back around and address this issue all the much more, because my genuine desire is to do nothing more than give you good information that you can use to improve your ability at playing drums so that your music sounds more genuine, more legit, more authentic, and that you're not struggling nearly as much, so that when you're at the gig, you can just sit back and just play and have fun because you're not thinking about what you're playing. So that's the goal. Please let us know if we hit it or not, and let's see what happens from there. So this is it. This video is done. I'm very, very excited about the next one, and I don't even know what I'm going to do yet. So that's my rumor. I'm sticking to it. I will see you guys on the next video. Have a good day. Bye-bye.